Hello, this is Bilal, your economic instructor. Today we'll be solving some MCQs for the topic Government Intervention for the level AS Economics. So let's get started. What is most likely to be regressive? Now, a regressive tax system is a tax system in which in which the poor pay higher proportion of taxes. Usually indirect taxes are regressive in nature. So let's look at the option. Corporation profit tax, this is a direct tax, so this won't be an answer. State pension benefits, this won't be an answer. Specific tax on cigarettes. Now, tax on cigarette, whether it's specific or ad valorem, constitutes as indirect tax. So this is the right answer. Unemployment benefit, again, it's not the answer. What defines progressive tax? Now, progressive taxes are taxes in which rich pays a higher proportion of taxes. So, low income earners pay the same proportion of income in taxes. So, this is incorrect. They don't pay the same, they pay less. Low income earners pay a lower proportion of income in taxes than high income earners. So this is the right answer. Low income earners pay less in taxes. Well, they will pay less in taxes, but we're not talking about the amount. We are always talking about the proportion. Hence, this is incorrect. Low income earners pay more in taxes. Well, this is again incorrect, because whenever you're talking about a nature of tax, regressive, progressive, or proportional, we need to look at the proportion of taxes. Okay, now the government wishes to influence the price of a good. It introduces a maximum price P max and a minimum price P min. The diagram shows the prices relative to the current market price P. Okay, now this is the equilibrium. As we know, maximum price is effective when imposed below the equilibrium, and minimum prices are effective when imposed above the equilibrium. As we look at this P min, it's imposed below the equilibrium, which means that it's ineffective and it will reach back to the equilibrium. So what can be concluded from the diagram? Both maximum and minimum prices will be affected. Well, this is incorrect. Only maximum price will be effective. Yes, this is correct. Minimum price won't be effective, hence C is incorrect. The market price will continue to operate. Well, if it's a maximum price, the prices will not go above P max, so the equilibrium won't be established. So D is incorrect. Moving on. What are the effects of government imposing a maximum price below the equilibrium? If maximum prices are imposed below the equilibrium, let's look at this example. This is my quantity supplied and this is my quantity demanded. Hence, the demand would be greater and the supply would be less. In other words, we can say that there would be a shortage in the market. So let's look at the option. The demand would rise. C or D is correct and the supply would fall. Hence, only C is correct and D is incorrect. Right? An effective minimum price is applied to alcohol in attempt to reduce consumption. Now, minimum prices are imposed. They are imposed above the equilibrium. Why would the government not buy up any surplus created? Buying the surplus will be costly to the government. Well, this is the right answer. It might be costly. Well, it's very common sense and this is right. Buying the surplus would decrease the incomes of producers. No, when you buy the surplus, that will increase the incomes. Buying surplus would lead to shortage. No, we're just buying up the surplus, so there won't be any shortage. Buying the surplus would lead to unemployment. No, rather it would not create unemployment, because the surplus, if it's not sold next year, people will produce less, creating unemployment. But if the surplus is produced by the government, there won't be any unemployment. Okay, the market for mobile phones is initially in equilibrium at X. The government then imposes a sales tax. Now, the sales tax supply would shift inwards. What's the government's total tax revenue from this tax? Now, this is sales plus tax. This is sales before tax. Initially, this X is my equilibrium, and now this is my equilibrium. So, the tax per unit is vertical distance, which is T to R, and the number of units that have taxes imposed is R to M. So this entire rectangle, T, R, K, and M. So T, K, M, and R. Well, this is the right answer, right? So this is how you find out the area of tax. The firm shows, a diagram shows the firm's demand and supply for apples. Okay, all right. If minimum prices is increased from P1 to P2. Now this was the minimum price. Now this is the minimum price. What will happen to the amount of apples sold? Now initially the amount of apples sold were Q1. Now the amount of apples sold will be Q2. Because the demand is less, hence even if I supply more, I will only be able to sell the amount that is being demanded. So initially I would be able to sell Q1 units and now Q2 units. So the amount of apples being sold will decrease from Q2 to Q1, will decrease from Q1 to Q2, sorry. All right, so A is the answer, right? And we can see the other options, they're incorrect because the concept I just explained. A government wishes to impose taxes on a good so that the consumers pays most of the tax increase. Now if the government wants to impose a tax so that the consumers pay most of the tax, the demand has to be, the PED has to be inelastic. So that's the concept, which whoever is inelastic would pay more of the taxes. So high elasticity of supply. So if the supply PES, okay, when we talk about PES, the PES has to be elastic, only then most of the taxes would be paid by the consumers. So the rule is whichever value is lower pays less taxes. If PES is high, suppliers pay less taxes, and obviously consumers pay higher taxes. So high price elasticity of supply should be the answer. Low price elasticity of supply, if the price elasticity of supply is low, customers would pay less taxes and producers would pay more taxes. If it's unitary, both would pay equal taxes. Perfectly inelastic supply. So if the supply is perfectly inelastic, which means it's the smallest value, which is 0, this means all the taxes will be paid by the supplier. Hence, this is also incorrect. Which type of tax is the 15% sales tax levied in South Africa? Now, sales tax have to be indirect. Now, ad valorem tax means that the tax percentage is fixed, and we can see it's 15%. So it's ad valorem indirect tax. The diagram illustrates the effect of a government action that shifts S1 to S2. Okay, so S1 to S2. What does the area of rectangle WX, Y, and Z represent? This, when the supply is shifting inwards, it means that it's a tax. And this area, the vertical distance, shows the tax per unit, and this shows the amount of units that are being taxed. So length into breadth, we get this entire rectangle. This shows the tax revenue received by the government. Because the supply is shifting inwards, we are assuming that it's tax. Had it shifted outwards, we would assume that it is a subsidy. A specific tax is placed upon each bottle of perfume sold. In the diagram, SS is the supply curve before tax. ST is the supply curve after tax. Okay, which area represents the part of tax revenue paid by the producers? Now, from R to P is the total tax per unit. The equilibrium R and the other equilibrium Q is the tax borne by the consumers. But we need to figure out the tax revenue paid by the producers, right? So from Q to P is the tax per unit for the producers, and the amount, the units taxed is until T units. So it's basically Q, P, T, and then U. Let's look at the option P, Q, U, and T. All right, so this is the right answer. The diagram shows the effect on the market for rice of a change in government policy that causes a shift in supply curve from S1 to S2. So it's shifting outwards, which means that it might be a subsidy. All right. What area does the what does the area JKLM represent? So this is basically the total subsidies given by the government. Well, A should be the right answer. Let's look at the other answers. The extra saving to importers of the removal of tariff on. No, 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 no. It's not this. This is not the answer, because the consumers and the producer would split the tax benefit. So this won't be the answer. An increase in consumer surplus from the introduction of maximum price. There is no maximum price, so this is not the answer. The loss in the government revenue from the reduction in a lump sum tax on rice. The loss in the government revenue from the reduction in a lump sum tax. So this is not the answer as well, because lump sum tax are treated a bit differently. Lump sum tax means that the amount of total tax is fixed, not the per unit specific tax. So this is not the answer as well, right? So that's it. I think we are done. Yes. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. Until next time, thank you.